is going to be the last one.
We'll just do one practice drill.
Yeah, that's fine. As many as you need.
That's enough.
Okay, whenever you're ready. Good. Find a comfortable position with the foot. You want to do a fatigue test? Oops, excuse me. You want to do a fatigue test then?
Yes.
Okay. You want a little bit of rest? There's 180. Why don't you just do one or two, just get a feel for the speed. Okay, I'll count them out for you. I'll tell you 10, 20, and 30. Pull back at your own speed. We don't want that to be fatiguing and causing you to get wiped out. So take your time, bring it back, but as hard as you can on the one push forward.
Okay, here goes.
Whenever you're ready. Pull out right from the beginning. There's 10. Hang in there, Bob. 20.
Textbook case.
Bob Thirsk, that's Thirsk.
And what's your title?
Canadian astronaut.
Tell me, just give me a short background of yourself.
I've been in the Canadian astronaut program for 11 years now. In the early days of the program, I was a backup astronaut to one Canadian who flew aboard the Space Shuttle Challenger. Since then, I've been involved in research activities, collateral duty activities within the program, and also just advanced training. I was offered an opportunity to be a candidate for this Life in Microgravity Space Lab mission a few months ago, and now I'm getting involved in some of the training there.
What do you think about the training?
Training is very preliminary right now. There's like sort of three phases to the training. The first phase is where we're just getting science background, meeting the investigators, trying to understand why they want to do their experiments and how they plan to do them. The second and third phases of the training will be exciting too, where we actually try to develop some proficiency in operating the equipment ourselves. And then the last phase is where we get to play with some of the shuttle systems and emergency procedures. I'm looking forward to that as well.
Now, if you're selected, what will be your duties on the next shuttle mission?
I'll be classified as a payload specialist on this Space Lab mission if selected, and I would be the life science payload specialist. About 3/4 of the payload, or 3/4 of the experiments on the flight have a life science application to them, some human and some non-human experiments. So I would be the person who would be very heavily involved with those experiments.
How old are you, Bob?
41.
Has this been a lifelong dream?
Since grade 3, it's been a dream. I can remember being in my classroom and my teacher turning on the classroom radio, and I heard the voice of John Glenn as he was actually in space speaking to Mission Control. And that was the first moment in my life where it dawned on me that this career called astronautics existed, and I decided at that point that I wanted to become an astronaut. As I grew a little bit older, I realized it wasn't Canadians that were flying in space, it was Americans and the Russians that were. So that dream sort of got put on the back burner. But in the last few years I realized, hey, this dream can come true.
Where are you from in Canada?
I was born near Vancouver, but I've lived over most of Western Canada. My education, my career has taken me to Eastern Canada, so I know Canada quite well.
What about how does that feel?
There's many things that happen to the human body during adaptation to the weightless environment. One of the systems that's affected is the musculoskeletal system. All American astronauts and Russian cosmonauts suffer muscle atrophy and loss of strength during spaceflight, but we're not really sure exactly why this happens or over what time period it takes place. So the investigators at Ball State University and Marquette University have gotten together and come up with an experiment to try to elicit the rationale and why this happens. They have some hypotheses which we're going to be testing on the flight with the use of this torque velocity dynamometer, looking at how the strength that we can apply with our muscles changes during spaceflight, and also the velocity at which we can apply the force changes as well.
One of my favorite things is Star Trek. When you watch that, do you ever think about what you're doing?
Yes. Star Trek is also one of my favorite movies, not only because of the theme of space exploration and development too, but also because it really shows that the people that are pioneers in this area are still very much humans, you know, and astronauts, whether American, Russian, Canadian, Japanese, whatever, we have human traits, and it's all part of our intrinsic desire to work together as an international team and to try to do things that other people in the past have never tried to do before. It's sort of the Star Trek theme, which I think is a good one.
How long would you like to fly? Starting at 41.
Yeah. In terms of duration of a mission, this one is, as you know, is a 16-day mission. I feel very fortunate that I have such a long flight for a shuttle. I think I could last 2 or 3 months in space. I don't think I'd like to spend a year in space. That'd be too much. I think I'd miss my family.
You wouldn't want to be one of the cosmonauts who spend a long time by themselves?
No, I don't think that's for me. I'm sure I would enjoy the job, but I would miss my family too much. And
how old would you like to be? I mean, could you do this forever?
No. I think that I could probably be an astronaut for another maybe 5 or 6 years. If I get a second flight opportunity after this one, I'd feel very, very fortunate. However, you know, I have other career goals that I'd like to achieve as well. And when you take on the life of an astronaut, there's sacrifices to be made in terms of career, in terms of remuneration, things like that. And I've got to catch up.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.